Welcome to the My Villain Era podcast. I'm your host, Victoria, and the My Villain Era podcast is your permission slip to put yourself first unapologetically. After decades of playing by everybody else's rules, I made a radical decision to become my best self, even if it pisses other people off. So each week, I'm talking with powerful women who are rewriting their story. They're doing something audacious and inspiring and encouraging us to live authentically as the best version of ourselves. This week, we're talking with award-winning international keynote speaker, author, and founder of Thrive Unapologetically, Robin Carr. Let me tell you just a little bit about her before I bring her on. Robin is an award-winning international keynote speaker, author, and founder of Thrive Unapologetically. Known as the mindset behind the stage, she helps individuals uncover the truth and the power of their stories, guiding them to reclaim their voice, rebuild confidence, and rise from trauma, adversity, and self-doubt. Through her signature Empower framework, Robin works at the identity level where healing meets ownership, supporting her clients and stepping into resilience, strength, and unapologetic self-trust. While some go on to speak on stages, many first learn how to show up fully in their own lives, relationships, and leadership. As a published author and warrior woman and a sought-after coach, she bridges lived experience with transformative strategy, helping people to stop hiding and start thriving unapologetically. Welcome, Robin. I'm so excited to be able to connect with you today. I know this is going to be such a juicy conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm absolutely honored to be here.
So we had a little chat before this podcast episode, and I think that we have so much in common, even just from our backgrounds. One of the things that we were talking about is we both have, corporate background. And as I mentioned just before we started the podcast, I feel like so many other women can relate to that because a lot of us did all the things that we thought that we needed to do to be successful, right? Including like, oh, I got a 4-year degree in this. Now I'll go get the fancy job or whatever. But for a lot of us now, we're realizing that really wasn't authentic to who we were. And so we have this whole other journey ahead of us. So I'd love to hear your story about how you went from being in the corporate world to where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love this because I actually just went live about this on Friday, more about the where I am now, but we'll get there. So, just like you said, it was the expectation growing up that you go to college, you get a degree, you get the job, whatever that might be. It didn't really matter what it was as long as you were working and as long as you had a degree, that was it. So that's what I did. I have a BS in psychology, which I would have told you was a BS in psychology. Because so I didn't realize this, but when I went to the University of Georgia and my junior year in the state of Georgia, they changed everything in the entire state to where you had to have at least a master's, even to work at a preschool as a counselor. So there was like absolutely nothing that I could do with my degree. And I was like, well, I don't want to do my master's right now. Not really sure what I want. Let me just find a job. Like I can still get a job, have a career, 4-year degree, whatever that might be. So I bounced around a lot, anything from like working in a real estate office to being an executive assistant to working in elections to working at schools, all different kinds of things, never really felt fulfilled. And then I transitioned into sales because elections was no longer safe. We don't have to jump into that. It just wasn't safe. And so this happened right about the time that a lot of corporations started having major layoffs. And by layoffs, I mean like downsizing their population, not just like randomly firing people. So the first one I experienced was in June of 22. And I had only been there about 6 months, so I was like, okay, no big deal, whatever. Well, then I got another sales job at a global corporation, and this one was a lot more impactful. So in April, I had gone, was doing really well, was leading a team. We had gone from 12 to 36 people. I had gotten a raise. And then fast forward to September of 24, 15 minutes, I went from 100K plus to absolute zero. Didn't have a backup plan. Like I had been what I thought was thriving and I had, all these things. I fell completely on my face. And in this time in my life, I actually entered into the deepest depression that I'd ever been in. And now I've always been like the cheerleader, the bubbly one, the one that everybody loves, and, the outgoing one, had never been the depressive type. And in this time in my life, so many things came up from my past. And I realized had not really healed from those things. And I continued to just kind of sweep it under the rug and be like, you know, I'm good, I'm fine. And I give this, when I speak, I give this analogy of like a band aid, or when you've had major surgery, you go back 5 to 7 days later, they remove that wound care from, post op, but you're not fully healed yet. And that's how I was living my life, was in that in between phase. So I'm very grateful for this depression though, because it reminded me of who I am, but it also helped me find my voice. And for years, 15, 20 years, there had been this little voice in my head. Now I know that was intuition. That was like, hey, you need to share your story. You need to help other women and you need to share your story. I didn't really know what that meant. My story has not always been sunshine and rainbows before the corporate world. And like I said, I always hit it. And I finally decided to take the stage and to get out there and to start sharing my story, to find my confidence and to be able, not, it wasn't just about being in the spotlight. It wasn't the attention, it wasn't the whatever. It was the fear of people assuming that I wanted the attention for the wrong reasons, or being assumed as a Me Too girl, or whatever you want to call it. And I was like, "Oh, I don't want that. Like, I don't want anyone to look at me and think these things. I don't want to just be that girl." But then I realized I'm not just that girl. I am that girl, and I'm able to help people. So I'm happy to elaborate on any part of that you want. But that's how I got here today, is really leaning into all of that and being the person that I needed in my darkest days that I didn't have.
It's so funny when you kind of get into the healing space, and whether I'm not really into talk therapy, but I have what I call DIY therapists, like my YouTube therapist that I bought. So they talk about in the healing space how really you have this like identity of healing, and then you have one of being healed.
Mhm.
And I think it's so interesting, like you're talking about like you mentioned, you went through this journey. You're like, hey, I still have some work to do. I still have some healing to do. But it's almost like, um, and I don't know if you experience this. For me, it's like I have to be the healed version of me. I can't just be on this healing journey forever. At some point, it's like really, and we haven't talked about identity yet, but really that's what it is the identity and stepping into that identity of that person who you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's both. Not to start off on a contradicted note, but I think it's
Hey.
both. I think that I did need to get through that. All I can think of is Shrek in my head right now. Like, I'm kind of like an onion. Maybe I'm a cake. I don't know. I'm a little sweet. But like, like you have that first initial, like really rough, hard season of healing. And then you kind of transition into the more aware season of healing where you're like, hey, I've come a long way. But I guess in my mindset, like, I know I'm still not perfect. Like, there are still some things that sort of trigger me in a little bit of a way that I'm like, I know I can still do better, even though I'm 100 times better than what I used to be. I just don't know that I'm full as though these things actually never happened.
Mhm.
And maybe it's just how I lean into them and like they happen for me. So I use them, not so much like let them hold me back. But it absolutely is an identity shift, like however you look at it, because I would have been the first to tell you, well, actually I wouldn't have, because I wouldn't have told you. But in reflecting, like, I always thought that everything happened to me. And like I got so angry. I got angry with God. I got angry with like you name it. I was like, what did I do to deserve this? Why is this happening to me? And then when I finally owned that and was like, these things didn't happen to me. They happened for me so that I could step into my purpose. And like that alone, huge, huge identity shift. And then as I've grown, like I've had multiple identity shifts, like even in the past year, which I've heard is a little unusual, and I didn't know that, but apparently it is. Apparently you kind of stay in one space for a while and then you slowly transition. I have an energy coach who's amazing, and I was talking to her about it and kind of my journey, and I was like, I just feel like a whole new person. And she's like, well, you are. She's like, your nervous system has been telling you for 20 years to do this thing, to talk about this thing, like to share your story. She's like, now that you actually are, I have no doubt that you've had 3 or 4 different identities in the past year. But you talk to other people and they're like, so you have multiple personality disorder? And I'm like, no, that's not what I mean. Like, that's not how this works.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, like this is a little bit of the woo aspect. Like I'm all the way woo, so that's a little bit of the things I like to talk about. But I mean, when people talk about manifesting, that's it. Like you become the type of person that has the big house or the car that you want or whatever. And so when you talk about identity, the thing that I think is so interesting is like, it's not that necessarily for me, like that old version of me is gone, but maybe I like every day I have a little bit more confidence. Every
Mhm.
day I have to give myself a pep talk a little bit less. Every day I'm improving and believing that like, yes, I am that version of me.
Absolutely. And that's where I've been the most recently is fully stepping into that alignment, really believing all the things that I've told myself for years and not the things that I've been told. So that was what I went live about on Friday was I've been told to be put in a box for so long. No, this is what you coach on. This is who you are. This is how you are. This is how you get clients. This is how you do whatever. And my nervous system was finally just like, no, no, like almost full on panic attacks. Like I'm physically sick because that's how my nervous system operates. If I choose to ignore it, then I just get like actual physical ailments. And I was like, okay, let me stop and listen. And I finally did. And now I feel better than I have because I can no longer operate as my unauthentic self and try to fit in a box, anybody's box.
Yes. I've talked about the box so often and how you just have to light it on fire because my experience was that I had a good daughter box. I had
Mm,
a good employee box. I had a
mhm,
perfect wife box. And I'm none of those things, but I'm more, right? So for a long time I tried to live in all the different boxes and it just doesn't work. I just felt like I was losing my mind and I realized I'm not losing my mind. I'm just trying to be somebody that I'm not all the
mhm,
time.
mhm,
Like in the corporate world, I found that it was really hard to be authentic because like people didn't get me, right?
mhm,
And that's fine if people don't get you, but it's really like then you find that you're suppressing a part of you. Or if you're the weirdo in your family, like if you're the black sheep, and everybody else likes sitting on the couch and you're skydiving. Not that I would jump out of a plane, but you know what I'm saying? Like, and
yes.
you're the one that's skydiving, they can't relate to you. So again, we try to put ourselves in the box. It's just so, and for me, it's like, it's so stifling. You just can't anymore. So
Yes.
tell me about some of the ways that you're helping women so that they are finding their way out of their own boxes.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you asked me this question. So I'm actually changing that a little bit, which is really cool. So it's still about finding their confidence. It's still about finding their voice and shifting their mindset. All the things that I went through using the Empower framework. But before, my focus was more or less on helping women take the stage, but that was part of the box. So what I'm leaning more into is, like I said, so my background's not all sunshine and rainbows, just to keep it PG. Like I'm a survivor of every type of abuse that you can imagine. And where I've noticed that I'm really aligned to help these women is to finding the confidence and the voice and the strength and everything else to rebuild. So if they're in those situations or maybe they just got out of those situations, helping them be able to move forward, to rebuild their life, to rebuild who they are without having this as this negative cloud that hangs over them, helping them be able to say no, helping them to know that they're beautiful. They are enough. They are worthy. Like, I don't usually do this, but just for a second, for everybody out there, you are worthy, you are beautiful, you are enough, and you are loved exactly as you are. Because somebody needs to hear it, because I needed to hear it. So that's what I do. There's a lot of mirror work in what I do. It's really finding that confidence and strength within yourself. It's not me telling you, like, hey, you're like this or you're going to do this thing. It's all about you. It's not about me at all. I only have the tools to help you get there. But so I am rolling out a second podcast. It doesn't even have a name yet, but this is what it's going to be about. And it's going to be helping women and having the safe place where they hear the true stories about people who have been in these situations, how they got out, how they got help, how they're now thriving and living as their unapologetic selves, because that's my brand and 1,000% how I live every single day. And everybody should know that they have that right. Men, women, indifferent, I don't care. Like, be your unapologetic self with your opinions and your values and your morals and your boundaries. And that's okay. So, and then I'm also haven't announced this yet either, but there's a book coming too, and it's going to be powerful. It's going to be so, all right, we're gonna throw this out in the universe, and it's gonna be fine. This is live and we're okay. So I know when I was in those situations, I would have not been able to pick up a self-help book without feeling threatened in my situation. So I have this idea where I want to do, it's like a cookbook, but let's say hypothetically, you go to chicken soup, because that's kind of what this book reminds me of. And it's not about chicken soup. It's about maybe you're in this abusive situation and here's help on how to get out. How do you
Mm.
start saving money to help yourself without getting further abused in your situation? It's a very powerful thing, but this is really what it's how I want to help people. And now the stage part comes in a non-traditional way. So it might be speaking to the masses. That's my dream, but it also might not be. It might be whoever is in my coaching or finding their voice. It may be them speaking to their churches or starting a community group or doing something that's going to impact others where money's not always the focus, because money doesn't have to be the focus. It's just finding your own strength and your own power. And I'm sorry, that was a very long-winded answer, but like it gets me really fired up because I wish I had had that person several years ago.
Robin, this is going to be so impactful for so many women. I just feel it. I feel it. It's just going to be so good. I have to tell you the importance of being able to speak your truth
Mhm.
is unbelievable. And I don't know if you've read anything by Dr. Christiane Northrup. And so she's probably, I want to say she's in her 80s by now. She's an OBGYN. She's written all these amazing books about women's health. And ironically, one of my favorite books of hers is called Energy Vampires. But one of the things that she talks about in her menopause book is that women who have suppressed their voice for so many years are more likely to have some sort of disease like cancer in their 60s and 70s. And so a lot of doctors think that she's a quack or whatever, but I truly believe that it's like you can only suppress your truth for so long. And then your body is like, hey, remember me? I keep the score. Hey. So I think that just this mission of helping women, even to speak their own truth and like how you're going to help them is going to be so impactful. I feel really blessed that like this came out on this podcast. This is so fun. Sometimes we have this idea of like, I'm going to be a this,
Mhm.
right? I'm going to do things this way, especially when you're a business owner. And sometimes I think God has other plans for you. And I was like, oh, tap, tap. Remember how I
Uh-huh.
gave you these gifts? And remember how that you gotten this little nudge that you should be doing X, Y, and Z. So it
Mhm.
doesn't surprise me that, especially for me, the things that look so good on paper are the things that fall apart in a really spectacular way. So it's always the things that people are like, that looks completely crazy that end up being the best choice for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. More than you know. So much more than you know. And I feel like when I first told my mom, even, because my mom didn't even know my whole story until about 2 years ago. When I first told my mom that I wanted to start speaking on this and doing all this stuff, she was like, have you actually lost your mind though? Like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And like I had to figure it out, I had to do all the things, but it's been such a blessing. And if I never would have had that courage and that confidence just to do it, I would never, never, like, never would have thought I would have been here today. Definitely never would have, even 2 years ago, 5 years ago, I never would have been like, I'm going to be a coach that's going to help women overcome this.
Yeah.
Or people in general. It doesn't have to just be women. Like, this is one of those wild, crazy ideas, and that feels so aligned, and I have so much peace. And I'm like, okay, so this is what really stepping out of the box and into alignment really feels like. Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it really amazing that the things that sort of come up when you are in alignment, where like rather than, checking off all the boxes on the, socially appropriate things that you should be doing with your life, when you lean into, hey, this feels good, just interesting how magically things happen and things just line up. And I'm a firm believer that like God's going to use us how he
Mhm.
wants to use us. And we have certain gifts and stories and talents that are going to help other people. And sometimes it's whether we want to do it or not, it ends
Right.
up happening. Right. So I love that. I love that. So let me ask you this. I know that you have so many parts of your story because you have these personal parts of your story. You have um the parts of your story where you were in corporate and now you're your own business owner. How have you found that embracing certain parts of your story and also letting go, how has that helped you in really stepping forward and becoming the person you want to be?
Yes. I mean, I feel like I mentioned before, like with my past and stuff and embracing it and not trying to sweep it away or be like, "Oh, that didn't happen to me," or, I'm not that girl, but really embracing it and pulling it into my life and being like, "No, it did, and this is how I can help others with it." That has changed so much. So, like, absolutely let go of the victim mentality, not just with what happened to me, but also with the corporate side of things, right? Because I was like, why me? Like, why'd I get let go? Like, I was doing wonderful things for this company. Like, what, So I let go of the victim mentality. Um, I let go of perfectionism. I let go of so many things. And then there's so much I mean, I've held on to like a lot of the lessons that I learned. Like I can read people very well. And now even more so now that I'm more aware and can be like, hey, this doesn't give me good vibes. Like I don't need to be in this situation. I don't need to be talking to this person or the opposite, right? And so as part of that I did learn in the corporate world. Like there were people I had never met before that used to come into the elections office and I'm like, you're up to no good and you make me very uncomfortable.
Mm.
And now, like, I mean, I bring that in and I don't mean this to sound in a conceited, cocky, any type of way. It's just genuine. But like, if you come to me and you're like, hey, I need your coaching, but there's something that just doesn't jive, I'm going to be the first one to be like, hey, I will support you in your journey, but I think this person's going to be a better coach for you because I think that's important too. And that goes back to it not being about the money, which was something else I had to learn. I've had to let go of the limiting belief factor where you're like, "Oh, I need every dollar and every dime, and I've gotta do this because it doesn't make sense on paper, and it doesn't this," and I'm like, "It's not how life works," and it took me a long time to figure that out. So I've brought lessons from my entire life of things that I've both let go and held on to that gravely impact my business because it's like you said before, it's stepping into alignment and into that higher version of myself of I really do only work with the people that I want to work with or that, I feel aligned that they really are within my help area and people who are also ready to make a difference. Like they're ready to share their story for the right reasons. I don't want to help people who are like, oh, me. It's all about me. Excuse me. Eyes on me. You're not my people. And I'll tell you, you're not my people. Like, come with me, genuine, absolutely. Let's go. But like, I could probably write an entire book around the question that you just asked me. To be honest with you, truthfully, I really could. I might one day. From mindset things to tangible things to expectations to apologizing. That was a huge one. I mean, literally, and I still do it. And I love my husband so much because all the time he's like, stop apologizing. And I'm like, there's sometimes I'm actually sorry. And he's like, yeah, but are you sorry because you forgot milk? Well, maybe because now you don't have milk and I'm sad that you don't have that to make your day better. But
Yeah.
also, though, like, I get it. And he calls me out on it all the time. And I didn't realize how much I used to actually apologize. And he's like, isn't your brand unapologetic? And I'm like, yeah, it is. Yeah. Calls me on my bluff all the time. All the time.
Oh my gosh. My husband does the same. So it's lovely to have a partner where I mean, from a loving place, they're calling you on your shit, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, it is.
So we've talked about so much. I feel like this is a half an hour. I feel like we've talked for 2 hours. But so what are some steps like as women? So if someone comes to you and they're like, hey, I want to start living and speaking and doing all the things more in alignment with who I am, speaking my truth. If someone has never spoken their truth before, what kind of guidance would you provide to them? Like what would be your best advice for them?
So, number one, write it down. Not type it out, physically write it. There is something in the brain about when you physically write things down. It's very different than typing it. And it's more of like when you write it, it's real versus when you type it, it could be about anything or anyone. Write it down. So when I did my first speech, it was my whole story crammed into 20 minutes. I had never actually written it before.
Mm.
Start to finish, write it in a timeline, how it happened, how it made you feel, what was the consequences, what types of things like came from that because and I'll share just briefly, but mine started even as young as with my father, my biological father,
Wow.
trying to be perfect to earn his love and to be worthy, to be enough for him to want me. And I carried that into relationships and relationships and relationships. And then there's a lot. So when you write it down, number one, it's going to make you more aware because you're going to be like, oh, I was trying to be worthy for my father, which is why I did tried to also be worthy for my first boyfriend. Like, okay, write it down. That's number one. Number two, once you write it down, read it out loud. I don't care if it's on a stage. I don't care if you record it. I don't care if you're in your bedroom. I don't care if you're outside. Read it out loud. I didn't understand the gratitude of that until gravity. I don't think gratitude is a word. Anyways, the gravity of that until I was in Warrior Women. And the host of that anthology, she had us all come on a Zoom call all together. And each week, one of us would read our stories. And me, along with, I think, 3 or 4 of the other authors, like, we had read it out loud or to ourselves multiple times, but we had not actually read it out loud all the entire time because it just releases something that you don't even know needs to be released. Like, I was super excited. I was like, oh, I'm writing my first chapter. This is really cool. And like, I didn't even get into all of the weeds. It was more just like, life happened, depression, here I am now thriving, basically, with the steps of how I got here. So write it down, read it out loud. The next thing is mindset. So when you decide that you're ready to make that shift and to start owning the things that have all happened for you, nothing happened to you, you have to accept it. And this is actually part of my Empower framework. So the E is that you have to embrace where you are, how you got there. But there's a mindset component, and then you fast forward, there's an ownership component. You have to own all these things to be able to talk about them without sounding like a blubbering idiot, and to be able to do it from a place of not just conviction, but owning it with a purpose and understanding that all of these things happened as bad as they were. And we can talk about that as bad as they were. They all happened for your greater good. And that was a hard pill for me to swallow. That was one of those things where I'm like, how is it possible that this situation could be for good? How is there anything good that came from this?
Yeah.
Next, make a list. Once you start making the list of the good that came from those bad situations, have you ever read the book The Magic by
I don't
Rhonda
think so.
Byrne? So it's part of the Secret series, but The Magic is all about gratitude. And it's a 28-day journal prompt. And that was actually what prompted me to be able to write down all the bad things and then write down like 30 to 50 things that are actually good that came from that thing. And like, that was a game changer,
Mm.
absolute game changer because I had never thought of it like that before. I was like, no, it's all bad. Like, how can this really awful situation have anything positive? But it does. There's a silver lining in every single story. And the beauty in finding it, that's where that confidence comes from.
I
I
love
could
how
talk all
you
day about
phrase
this.
that. Yeah, I love how you phrase that so much. I've heard people refer to it as radical responsibility
Hmm.
because you're taking responsibility for everything that has happened in your life. Like let's say you get in a car wreck and it wasn't your fault. Well, why are you responsible for it? Well, you're responsible for your life. So whatever the result of that is going forward, you're still responsible for your life. But
Hmm.
I have to say that one thing has been very integral for me in my journey because what it is taking away the victim,
Hmm.
right? Because you can't be a victim and also take responsibility for your life.
Absolutely.
So it's like, and I was in victim mentality for a long time. I have a, very similar story about my dad who was never around when I was growing up. And it's like, um, why doesn't he want to be here? Why does he hang out with my brother? Why, like, why? And then
Hmm.
at your child mind is like, well, clearly there's something wrong with me, right?
Hmm.
And you become that victim. It doesn't serve you though, right? Because you can't be a badass bitch and be a victim. So it just doesn't, you know what I mean? It just doesn't work. So that one piece I think is like, to me such an awesome nugget that when first heard someone talk about that, I was like, well, shit, because I'm like, oh, okay, I have to take responsibility for everything. Okay, here we go. Right.
Mhm.
But it's like there's something magical about that. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I love to call it you can be a victim and a victor at the same time. Same mentality.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let me ask you, because I know that you have your business, you've talked about thriving unapologetically. So
Mhm.
what is your definition of thriving unapologetically? And what are a couple simple things that women can do to feel like they have a win or they have a step towards that thriving unapologetically?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, thriving unapologetically, um, unapologetic first. So we just talked about that a little bit, where you have permission. Some people need permission to have your own ideas and your own opinions and morals and boundaries and feelings. And I talked about this a little bit on Friday too, but like, I'm not saying just go be unhinged and go off the handle and like just yell and scream at everybody. Like, no, we still have to be respectful, professional, whatever people that we need to be to function in society. But one thing I used to do was if someone asked me my opinion, I would walk on eggshells to not offend that person who just asked me my opinion. So if someone asks you your opinion and you're like, well, like, they're not going to value your opinion as much as you're like, I believe this, and this is why I believe that. Guess what? You just stepped into your own authority, just owning your own answer. So I stopped shrinking. I stopped allowing myself to be apologetic. I mean, obviously, if I make a mistake or if I hurt someone's feelings, like I am human, I am in no way, shape, or form perfect, and I will apologize then. But I no longer apologize for taking up space. I no longer apologize for not doing enough. If I know every day that I do more than anybody thought that I could or I thought that I could, I no longer apologize for not everything being done or whatever. I could talk about this a lot too. And the thriving part, whatever that means for you. So if you're a mom and it makes your heart happy to go and spend the day with your kids at the park and you are thriving because you had a car to get there, you had time in your schedule, you had the peace of mind to say, this can wait, my children come first. Whatever that is that makes you feel thriving, and you know what that feeling feels like when you don't have anxiety, when you don't feel rushed, when you don't feel like you're about to have a panic attack. That's your version of thriving. My version of thriving is working for myself, knowing that I can support myself and my husband, being able to spend time with my dogs, do some DIY projects, go hiking, go to the beach, like whatever makes my heart happy, do podcasts like this. Like whatever your version of thriving is, that's what it looks like for you. But a couple things to help people step into that and be their unapologetic self. Number one, choose you. All day, every day, choose you. And I do a speech, and well, I talk about this in some of my speeches where I will tell anyone now, I am the most selfish person that you will ever meet. And I mean that in the best way possible. Now, I'm from the South. I grew up in Georgia, where being selfish is very frowned upon. And it's like, oh, that girl's selfish. Like, she's rude. I'm not rude. But what I learned is that if I pour into myself, I have exponentially more to give back to those that I love. If I take 10 or 15 minutes and meditate, journal, read, whatever it is for me that day that I need, or even just sit in silence, I have more energy naturally. Like this morning, I had not even had coffee yet. And my husband's like, how much coffee have you had today? And I'm like, I haven't. Like right now, I've had one cup of coffee, like a normal cup, not like a cup. But like that is the most advice that and the best advice that I can give anybody. Always choose you first. It's like being on an airplane. You got to put your own mask on before you can help somebody else. Because I always thought, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, surely people need to help their children or help whoever first. But it's true because if you can't breathe, if you are suffocating, you are no help to anybody else around you. So, in real terms, if you are in constant chaos, spiraling, overwhelmed, like you can't even think about your next step or plan your day or manage your time, you are no help to anybody else. So, take care of yourself first, number one. And then just do the things that make you happy, do the things that bring you joy, whatever that looks like.
And what's so funny about that is a couple years ago, I had a financial consulting business, I which I hated. And I just like it didn't make me happy. We had just moved to Texas. My husband tells me to take a year off. He was like, just relax for you, just take a year off. And he goes, because what would you love to do if you didn't have to work at all? And I looked at him and I said, I have no clue. Like
Mhm.
I was so busy taking care of everybody else and doing all of the things that I thought I should do. I had no idea what brought me joy at all. Like I couldn't tell you. And so I mean, it sounds like such a silly thing to say, but sometimes we just need to pour into ourselves and tap into what is that thing that is going to bring us joy. So we
Mhm.
know what it is.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this sounds ridiculous. I mean, like, I'm sure someone right now is like, "How could you not know what's gonna bring you joy?" I didn't because I was so concerned with everybody else being in all the boxes at the same time that I couldn't even tell you. So, I mean, that's one thing that I really, um, is so, like, just on my list every day
Mm.
is how do I tap into my joy a little bit more? Because if I feel like if I don't keep it up, it's not going to be a priority, which sounds,
It's very
again,
true.
I think it sounds so silly to say it
Mm-mm.
out loud, but it's legit. It's my truth. How about that?
That is so true. And it's for me, I don't know about you. I'm not an avid gym goer, but I used to be. Like if I or let's say food, we can use a lot of examples. Like if I eat a salad, then I feel pretty good about myself. Like I feel healthy, I feel light, I feel, all the things. If I eat a milkshake and a cheeseburger, the next day I'm like, I don't feel very good. Like I just feel icky. The same is true in life, right? So if we take care of ourselves today, then we feel better tomorrow. But if you skip those days when you don't take care of yourself, you're absolutely right. Like it just goes by the wayside and it's easy to fall into those old habits because those old patterns are real and they are easy to be like, no, come back to the dark side. It's comfortable over here.
Yes, I know. And that's when our brain, like, I feel like our brain just doesn't do us any favors. It's those habits, which habits can be broken, but it can be hard.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
What is the first step you would tell a woman who's on a journey to really becoming her best self and wanting to start to maybe she isn't ready to speak her truth yet, but she's on the path.
Yeah, so this definitely comes back to my Empower framework and the E. So the E is embrace. So you embrace where you are, you embrace how you got there, you embrace all of the things in your life, past and present, and you just become very aware. But until that's a hard part because we all look at ourselves in the past and it's like, oh, hindsight's 2020. I wish I would have done this, or I should have done this, or I should have known, or shoulda, coulda, woulda is gonna kill you every day. But looking back and even currently in a non-judgmental lens and just allowing yourself to be like, okay, this happened, and really embracing that as part of who you are and part of your journey and not a derailment. Because so here's something that I've learned relatively recently. I no longer believe in derailments. I
Mm,
no longer believe in coincidences. I no longer believe in the wrong path. I think that we all get can you see my hands? Okay. I think we all
yeah,
get unaligned and
yeah.
then we come back, but it's all part of our unique journey because what I realized is that there's things that you learn in those outward paths that you never would have learned right here. And it makes you stronger for when you come back to your path. Absolutely it does. So, yeah, fully just embrace it and just love yourself for it. Like there is a version of you that got through those things, whatever they are, that helped you get to where you are today. And most people don't look at it like that. Like they don't love themselves and give themselves some grace thinking about it like in the retrospect like that. Or even right now. Like maybe something happened today, this morning, and you're like, oh, like you're just sitting there kicking yourself while you're down. What good is that doing you in this moment?
Yeah.
Ah, gotta love yourself.
Well, I mean, for some people, that is so hard. And my mother she's been gone a while. This year she'll be gone 20 years, but she was a mathematician in the 60s and she worked for NASA doing like missile trajectory something. Anyway,
That's so
total
cool.
smart cookie, right?
Yeah.
I have never met a more insecure woman. And I like, now I wish I could go back and tell her, like, "You are a total badass. Like, why don't you feel good about yourself?" You know? But the the one thing that taught me just witnessing her was that we have a choice.
Mhm.
And whenever I get like a little wobbly, like whenever I get, like I went to a social function yesterday and sometimes I get like a little anxious around new people and stuff like that. I had to hype myself up in the car and I was like, girl, come on now. We're going to go. We're going to have a good time. If you don't like these bitches, you can leave. Like, you know what I mean? So I really try my hardest to make sure that I'm my own hype squad because seriously, we all live in our own heads, right? And you could live in a beautiful place or you could be living like your head could be like a trash can, right? And you can be repeating all this garbage stuff to yourself every day. So, why not live with a beautiful story that you've embraced? Yes, maybe some of the things that have been not so great that have happened, but they're for your betterment. They're for your greater good, even if you don't know what that is today,
Mhm.
right? So, I kind of went off on a tangent there.
Okay.
Anyway, I would love for you to tell everybody what you're up to and how they can work with you because this work is so important. And as we're talking about like a lot of the women who are listening now who have reached out to me and they've said, I had this sweet woman last week and she goes, I didn't know that there was a name for this phase in your life. And she was like, thank you for putting a name to it. And I was like, girl, I didn't know either. I was like, I just started talking, right?
Right.
But I would love for you to share with those women what you're doing, how they can get in touch with you, how they can work with you, all of the good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So, there's a lot going on, there's a lot coming out, and there's a lot of ways to work with me. How about that? So, very quickly, in the next week or so, my book will be available for purchase. We are all waiting for, we all being, it's an anthology, there's 8 of us. So, we're waiting to make sure that we've all received our copies. There's nothing wrong as far as publishing goes, and then they will be available for public purchase. So, that is Warrior Women, Series 4. I am chapter 7. Lucky number 7. So that's number one. So number two, I am hosting a called Unapologetically Virtual Summit. And what that includes is it's going to be 4 weeks of group coaching, my book autographed. So you'll have the beautiful stories of these other, well, myself and 7 other women, as well as a virtual summit where there's going to be the opportunity for them to actually share their stories. But the whole audience is going to be people that are my colleagues, like their fellow speakers, their fellow coaches, they're people who are in my circle that have been very influential. So that's one package deal, one group rate. If someone says, hey, I'm not really ready for the stage, I just need to find my voice and I need to know this whole empower framework that you're talking about of one-on-one coaching. People are welcome to join at any particular part in their journeys. It's not like you have to be a newbie or have it all figured out. Everybody is welcome for conversation. My consults are free. And then other than that, so you can find me on Facebook. It's at the Robin Carr. Instagram is the same. And then LinkedIn, I do have a website that's thriveunapologetically.com. It's still kind of under construction, but the book a call works. I'm still updating it because there's so many events and things. I'm trying to keep my events page up to date. I'm speaking twice in the month of May if you're interested in those. And then there is a virtual summit, not just mine, but one that I'm actually speaking at the end of June if anyone's interested in that as well.
You got a lot going on. I love
I do.
it. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for being here today. This has been such a good, juicy call. I'm so glad that we were able to do this and that you've been able to share all of this good information with us. I think this is so important as we move along in our journey to like whatever it looks like for you, for our listeners, to whatever it looks like to you to be your best self, embracing your story, figuring out like your joy, talking nice to yourself, right? Not talking trash to yourself. Like all of these things are all just little pieces of what I feel like it's like a little stepping stone on the path, right? To being your best self. So I love everything that you shared. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you. This has been fantastic. I'm excited.
Oh, okay, everybody, go to the description. I'm going to put all of Robin's links and you can reach out to her directly. I'll see you next time.